Hi, everyone. Welcome to another episode of Capping the Card. I'm your host, Matthew DeSantis. Make sure to press that like and subscribe button on NYRA Bets YouTube today to get all of our great content, whether it's race analysis, full card previews, and so much more. Today on Capping the Card, we are going to be covering the Saturday card at Aqueduct, going to the Big A, and we're going to be covering races 1 through 9, giving you my top pick and my top value play for all 9 races. Like I said, make sure to press that like and subscribe button here on NYRA Bets YouTube today. We have a lot of great content. Aside from just previews and full card analyses, we also have a lot of great stuff getting you ready for the Kentucky Derby. And this weekend, we also have a really special video with myself, Acacia Clement, and Paul LaDuca. The three of us cover the 3 big stakes races at Tampa Bay Downs. All right, listen, winter weather might have a lot of us down. I'm up here in Rockaway Beach, and I woke up yesterday and it said, feels like 0 degrees outside. I think that might have even been a little generous. If you're down in Arkansas, obviously Oak Lawn Park been canceled. All the snow in the Midwest. Hope everybody's staying safe. Obviously, to all of our friends out there in California with the wildfires in Southern California and Santa Anita, that whole situation, certainly hoping and praying for all of you to be safe, be well, you, your horses, your loved ones, everyone. So listen, a lot of crazy stuff going on, but you know, we're racing up here this weekend. We got the races down at Gulfstream Park, Tampa Bay Downs. So there's still a lot of great racing taking place. All right. Well, listen, like I said, welcome to Capping the Card. We're going to go through race 1 through 9, cut top pick, value play. And listen, the value play, sometimes it's a horse that I think is a legitimate upset candidate that I would include in my horizontal wagers. Other times it's a horse that I'm just using underneath, a horse that I think is going to outrun its odds, a horse that I think is going to make a little bit of value, maybe combining with my top pick in an exacta, that sort of thing. So I'll always try to shout that out when there's a little bit of a differentiation between what value might actually mean. And remember, value is going to be determined right around post time too. We can look at the morning line, and our good friend David Aragona is as good as it gets in this business at setting the morning lines. You generally get a very fair price or very similar price to what you see in the morning lines, but not always. And so there's always that fluctuation. Scratches can change things, etc. But like I said, we're going to dive into this episode and kick you off in the very first race today, which is a $35,000 claimer for 4-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs. And all these races today are on the dirt. And in this race, I'm going to go to the number 4, Vinsanity, at 9-2 for Antonio Arriaga with Sofia Vives aboard. Going to talk about this horse in a second, but I do want to mention the number 2 horse, Narciso Dali, 3-1 for Chris Englehart. Now, here's the thing. If you look at Englehart's stats off the layoff, and this horse hasn't run since April, he's a very good trainer off the layoff. But, and there's always a but, a lot of those numbers are racked up at Finger Lakes. When you look at how he is off this type of a layoff at Aqueduct over the last 5 years, 0 for 13. So that was one of the things that, that was a horse I looked at because I know Englehart has a good reputation of getting these horses ready off the bench. Going to go someplace else, though. And ultimately, like I said, going to go to Vinsanity. And part of that is I'm not totally sold on Iridescent, who's your morning line favorite at 2-1. This is a Linda Rice horse that was claimed for $50,000 out of Brad Cox's barn. Linda stepped the horses up to Allowance Company. The horse is thoroughly trounced, loses by 14 lengths, and now is dropped back down for a tag to 35. Now, Linda claimed the horse for 50. The horse runs 7th in an allowance race, barely makes a couple $1,000 if anything, and now she's dropping the horse down to 35, 15,000 lower than what she claimed it for. Now, I know if she gets the claim and she gets the win, she makes, she kind of breaks even. It's still a little bit of a suspicious class drop. And at 2-1, that's a short price on a horse that is 2 for 15 with a lot of second place finishes. So like I said, Vinsanity was my choice. This is one that's also taking a bit of a class drop coming out of a starter allowance race last time out over a sloppy track. This horse actually ran in the Cigar Mile 2 back. And listen, the horse was thoroughly outclassed in those 2 efforts. But you look at what this horse does against claiming competition, and it's pretty good. When this horse runs against claimers, it's very competitive. You go back and look at that October 25th race, running against claiming 25, and gets the win there with Katie Davis aboard. Now we have Sophia up, and she's a nice jockey coming down from Woodbine, very good jockey. We've seen a couple of these jockeys coming down from Woodbine this winter riding here at Aqueduct. So I think at 9-2, this one actually presents really good value in a relatively short field. Now, in terms of my value play, I'm going to go right next door to Mua Zara. And this is one that, again, is kind of an interesting horse that has a lot of speed with Matty Oliver up on the mount. And this is a horse that has been consistently improving the last few times out. I think 6 furlongs is the right distance. And this is one that just has outstanding speed. So if this horse can shake loose somehow up on the front end, and there is some other speed in this race, no two ways about it. But, really is going to probably have to contend with Java Buzz on the inside for Rudy Rodriguez. But if for some reason that 5 can maybe get loose and can get up there, and Matty can be aggressive, and you never know breaking from an inside rail for a horse like Java Buzz, whether or not that horse breaks clean and whether he gets the right sort of trip. And again, this one just consistently improving the last few times out. And I just think it's 6-1, again, in a relatively short field, maybe a little bit interesting, and maybe a horse to use underneath more than anything else, because you go, maybe this horse fades a little bit late, and then you can use this horse underneath. But I think an interesting one to consider in the first race. Well, let's go to the Ladies Stakes. That's right. We got our stakes race, the second race on the card. The Ladies Stakes going 1 1/8 miles. And this one is for 4-year-old nut fillies and mares. I'd love to get creative in this race. First of all, it's only a 5-horse field, so it's hard to get too creative. But Tizzy in the Sky, who's your 4-5 favorite, is rightfully a 4-5 favorite. David Aragona does not make horses odds-on favorites very often, and he certainly doesn't do it for bad reasons. This is a horse that has a massive pace advantage in this race. And she is the only horse with significant early speed. And the thing that's really striking is she's the only horse that really has any interest in not just being up front, but even stalking the pace. I mean, the next closest horse you might be able to consider is a horse like Comparative, maybe wants to track the pace, but even Comparative doesn't have nearly the speed early on to compete with a horse like Tizzy in the Sky, who is coming off a win last time out in the Gopher Wand, second back from a little bit of a layoff. That was off the bench, by the way. She got that win in the Gopher Wand for Todd Pletcher. Kendrick Carmouche up. Kendrick's winning 36% of his mounts during 2025, during this winter meet so far at Aqueduct. And I just think she is kind of the clear class of this field. The last 5-6 efforts have all been good enough to get the job done here. Has a massive pace advantage, can do the distance, 3 for 6 winning, going 1 1/8 miles. So a lot to like there. 8 for 5 winning at Aqueduct. So she really likes running here at the Big A, and I think just makes a ton of sense in this particular spot. Listen, a horse like Julia Shining, 2-1, she's always going to get overbet, in my opinion, because she's the full sister to Malafat. She's never going to be able to escape that. And this is a horse that I think does her best running on Lasix now, as you saw last time out, getting that win against Optional Claiming Company. Looking good doing it, now coming off a little bit of a layoff. But I feel like we've been waiting for Julia Shining to have this breakthrough performance for a couple of years now, and it just hasn't happened. And so ever since that Demoiselle, it's just been a kind of a tease, and I can't at 2-1. So as a value play, I actually really like one of the bigger prices on the board, which is Christophe Clement's horse, Evidencias, who's coming from Brazil. This is a horse that has not missed the board since switching to the dirt back in December 2023. Okay, that's 9 straight races. This horse has hit the board and finished no worse than third. Now, a lot of those are seconds and thirds, only a couple of wins, but does have 2 stakes victories now. One going 1 1/8 miles at the Turn Back the Alarm. That is an interesting race. And I bring that race up because for 2 reasons. One, she won it. Well, 3 reasons. One, she won it. So it shows she can win against stakes competition and listed stakes competition. 2, it was a 5-horse field, just like this one. And 3, there was very little pace in that race. They went 1:13 and change to the 6 furlong mark. So it wasn't a particularly fast pace, a short field, yet she closed from last to win that race. Now, she beat a horse like Movie Moxie, who she beat by a half a length. Now, on the other hand, you could look at a horse like Tizzy in the Sky and look and see, oh, Tizzy in the Sky beat Movie Moxie by 9 lengths in the Top Flight Stakes. So, that's always a little bit of a dangerous game to get into, but I think at 6-1, Evidencias is a horse that has proven to be able to close in short fields against modest fractions, and to be able to do it pretty consistently if nothing else, she's a good horse to use in an exacta. If you're trying to beat the favorite, she's actually the first horse I look to because she doesn't have to get that much faster. Whereas a horse like Comparative, who won this race last year, does have to get kind of find her form again. And I know she's second back, and Cox is always dangerous second back with Manny up, but I'm willing to play against Comparative a little bit in this spot. All right. Well, let's go to race number 3 on the day, which is a $16,000 claimer for 4-year-olds and up, going 6 furlongs. This is a race. I mean, there's a lot of this is a N2L, so non-winners of 2 lifetime. And so you see a lot of like horses like Cam Duke, 1 for 23, right? Majestic Arc, 1 for 15. King Freud, 1 for 14. Masterwork, 1 for 16. There's a lot of those. And, York Tavern, who's my top pick, is admittedly one of those at 1 for 22 lifetime, 10 for 22 finishing in the money. This is a horse that runs well, doesn't always get the win, though. Likes to come from a little off the pace, now shortening up for Wayne Potts, who has yet to get a win in 2025, but is 6 for 11 hitting the board. So his horses are running. They're just not getting home. Jose Lizcano up on the mount, 26% to start off the year. So it's a good combination. And Lizcano's been riding this horse well the last couple of times out at this level. Gets off a sloppy track last time. And it, like I said, is now shortening up, had been running a lot at a mile. And again, do I like taking a short price on a horse like this? Not really. But the other horse I was looking at as a potential top choice was Always a Warrior, the number 6 at 7-2 for Carlos David with Sophia up. And that horse was just coming off such a bad effort at Laurel last time out. And I just couldn't really get there on that one. And so it's hard to really get behind some of these horses and kind of go, well, who am I taking at a short price? And this might just be one of those days that York Tavern found the right field to win and to beat. And that happens sometimes where horses that are career runners up, occasionally they just find the right sort of field. And this isn't always a horse that hangs. I mean, I don't think this is a horse that has that type of a problem sometimes, but a lot of times it's just, not quite finished. Coming from off the pace, those types of things. I think outside post position helps today. Now, if you're going to look for value, it's not tremendous value by any stretch, but it's a short field. And like I said, it's a lot of, one-time winners, obviously. Conniving, I think, is an interesting alternative, though. At 4-1, Lane Luzzy up for C.R. Figueroa Jr. And this is now second off the claim and gets off of a sloppy track. It ran against York Tavern that last time out and kind of chased and faded a little bit late. I just think this horse has some races to run back to. And again, I think the 6 furlongs is a good distance. 2 for 3 finishing the exacta at this distance. And I like those are good enough numbers to win, breaking his maiden, running a 75. This horse has the ability to get back to those numbers. Like I said, willing to draw a line through the last time out over a sloppy track. Maybe just didn't really like that. And, notable, the only win came over a dry, fast track. So, again, 4-1 is not great value, but you look at this field, a lot of, like I said, one-time winners, obviously. And the other thing is there's a lot of one-time winners. And then you see horses like King Freud and Majestic Arc. I mean, they barely even hit the board outside of their one victory. So at least a horse like Conniving, 7 for 15 hitting the board. This is a horse that's at least around the finish line and around the winner come the end of the race. So I'd rather kind of go with a horse like that than a horse that's just 1 for 15 lifetime like Majestic Arc with no other appearances even getting into the top 3. All right. Well, let's go to another N2L race, which is race number 4 on the card, which is a $25,000 claimer for 4-year-olds and up, going a mile this time. And I'm going to try to beat the favorite in this race. Your favorite is number 2, D-Day Sky, 1 for 12 lifetime. Horse ran well, but it might be a little one-paced. Admittedly, came from off the pace to win in debut, but you look those last few times out, this horse just, kind of runs in place last time, faded the time before that, ran in place the time before that, basically ran in place the time before that. So this horse, again, hasn't really shown the ability to pass horses in recent starts. It seems unlikely to get the lead here, but, again, we'll see. And this is another Wayne Potts horse. So that was the other thing is, Potts is 0 for 11. Is he really going to win back-to-back races suddenly? Maybe. But at a short price, willing to try to play against this one. I ultimately went to a recent entry to the Horacio DePaz barn. DePaz off to a nice start this year, has a couple of wins and 5 entries already, and has Kendrick Carmouche up. As I mentioned, Kendrick riding very, very well to start the year here at Aqueduct. And this is one that is off the claim from Christophe Clement. This horse ran in a claiming 25 last time out. Did not run particularly well, but it's notable that 2 of the horses have come back to win next time out, including the one horse that I like as a value play, Muazara, in the very first race. So this horse, again, has been keeping pretty decent company, even against the claiming competition. And you might be able to think this horse is better on the turf. And I wouldn't necessarily disagree with you. This horse has, broke its maiden on the dirt, but it was a muddy sealed track. So, take that for what it's worth. Did run last time out against Open Company, had been running against State Bred Company before that, but running against much tougher State Breds, running against Allowance, and broke its maiden against Allowance Company in the maiden special weight ranks. Had been running on the turf for Clement, but switched over to the dirt. And does this horse necessarily love the dirt? You have Mendelssohn up top out of a Pioneer of the Nile dam. Certainly the pedigree could go both ways. But I like DePaz getting this horse. I generally like Horacio off the claim. I think that he's a trainer who knows how to kind of get the best out of his horses, and he does it the right type of way. Maybe this is a claim for the spring. Maybe he has plans to get this horse back on the turf, and he just wants to get this horse kind of in his barn for a couple of times. And now we're going up against claiming 25s a little bit tougher than last time out, but willing to give this one a shot. Like I said, in a new barn, sometimes just new surroundings with a hot jockey in particular can make all the difference. Now, in terms of my value play here, just be honest, is number 3 horse for Jimmy Ryerson. This one's facing winners for the first time after breaking its maiden last time out. Did it in gate-to-wire fashion, going 1.1 miles. Now we're cutting back to 1 mile. But I think the key was that Chris Elliott was riding this horse last time. And Chris, I think, discovered this horse needs to be on the lead. Just go with this horse. You look at this horse's best efforts, even the ones that he didn't win, it was always when he was up on the pace. That was when he does his best. This is a horse that, again, doesn't really pass a lot of horses, but if you get him up front, he could be dangerous. And I think that this is an example of just be aggressive with this horse out of the gate. And the fact that Chris was aggressive last time out and was able to kind of duel and get a victory over First Trumpet, who, oh, by the way, came back to win at that maiden claiming 20 level the next time out, I think just showed a little bit of class there. And it's also sired by Gervin. I like those Gervin babies. And I think this one is worth a shot at 6-1, maybe more of an underneath play. But if this one's able to get the lead, this is a horse that has now improved the last couple of times out, ran a career best buyer speed figure. This is still a young horse, just turned 4 years old. Maybe this horse is figuring out what it wants to do. It's not surprising. Once horses learn how to win, sometimes they string a couple together. So that's one that I'm going to be looking to as a little bit of a value play. Again, a race where I'm going to try to beat the favorite. Some of these early races, it's hard to get around some shorter prices, but going to try to do it in that one. All right, well, let's hit the start of the late pick 5 and talk a little bit about a really fun maiden race. And this is one where, I ultimately went to T-Craft, who's a horse that has, I think, teased at times and then disappointed at other times. And I want to talk a little bit more about him. But a couple of things that I want to make note of is your morning line favorite in this race is the number 4, 1-900 for Tom Morley with Jose Lezcano up on the mount. This one is out of a Curlin mare and is by Dialed In. The works are very solid. You look at that 47 flat bullet, I shouldn't say bullet, but you look at that 47 flat gate work, 2 back, 48-4. This horse has been working nicely. Thing about it is Morley is 1 for 37 in debut maiden special weight dirt sprints over the last 5 years. He's not a trainer who's known for getting horses ready off the bench. Yes, he's got Jose up, who is usually a high percentage jockey, but still, at 2-1 at a short price, am I willing to take a shot? I know my colleague Kaylee Shapiro is. She really likes this horse a lot. It was $240,000 purchase at the OBS sale. She really liked the OBS work. Listen, would it shock me if this horse won? Absolutely not. Will be included on my ticket. But going to try to play against this one as my top pick. Also looked at the Chad Summers horse, the number 5, Senior Poncho, who's a Liam's Map out of the Tappet mare. That one's an interesting one. But again, you look at Summers, who just is coming off a win. The last time, his only entry in 2025 up here at Aqueduct was Cyclone State, winning the Jerome. So certainly off to a good start. But you look at these types of races, 1 for 25 and debut maiden special weight starters over the last 5 years. It's just, these aren't necessarily connections that get horses ready to go. And I'm just a little bit skeptical. As a result, I go to T-Craft, 5-2 for trainer Bill Mott, and another Woodbine jockey coming down, Sahin Savachi. And it is interesting. This is a horse that's half to straight no chaser and has faced much tougher company. Okay. This horse has run against some monsters, debuted against Mentee and Colloquial. Those two, very good. I mean, Mentee ends up switching to the turf and becoming a really good turf sprinter. Then goes against Chancellor McPatrick and runs second to Chancellor McPatrick in that very thrilling debut race that he had at Saratoga. Comes back and really disappoints next time out going a mile, cuts back to 6 furlongs and goes down to Keeneland and runs against David of Athens and Camp Hale and Patch Adams. One of the things you'll see here is there's a lot of next out winners that he's run against. And even ran against a horse like Ain't No Disco, who also just got a win recently. So then last time, again, Churchill Downs goes against Guns Loaded. That horse comes back to win the Mucho Macho Man. So he's been running against some tough company. He gets Lasix now. I think that's a big deal. You get Lasix on this horse, and Bill Mott keeps this horse up here rather than taking him down to Gulfstream Park. I think that kind of shows you where he thinks this horse slots in his barn. Again, maybe that 79 buyer was an anomaly, that second time out against Chancellor McPatrick, but I'm willing to take a shot here with Bill Mott as my top selection, 5-2. Now, in terms of where am I going to go for my second choice and my kind of value play in this particular race, I really like Grand Commander, 8-1. And this is one who is a part of a coupled entry with Gourmet Dinner. I like this one because I like Gervin babies. I love Gervin as a sire, particularly a first out sire. 18% first out starters. Gervin always extremely effective with first out starters. And I just think this one's interesting. I know the dam is 0 for 5 with first out starters. So there's not necessarily the bottom side pedigree. The works have been very consistent. They've been going for a little while. You get Dylan Davis up on the mount. Dylan coming back up to New York here for the weekend. He's gotten some winners down at Gulfstream Park during the championship meet. Interesting to see that he's back up here. I think he's got a couple of nice runners, actually. And I'm going to go Grand Commander as my value play at 8-1 in a race that I do feel is pretty wide open. And certainly I'm going to be including the 4 and the 5 on my tickets. This is a little bit more of a spread race for me. Well, let's move to race number 6 on the card and talk a little bit about this $50,000 starter allowance for 4-year-olds and up, going a mile and an eighth on the dirt. My top choice is the number 1 Frizzante for Linda Rice. We've not talked about Linda to this point, but we probably should because she's only winning 39% of her entries to start the year. Not bad. She teams up with Kendrick Carmouche here, and Frizzante has very good speed in this race. And that's one of the things that is interesting to me. This race is really filled with a lot of closers. Not a lot of speed in this race. I think Kendrick, particularly from the inside rail, is going to send with this horse. Just get this horse up on the front end. The horse doesn't need the lead by any stretch, but I think it's probably best up on the lead and is going to be able to kind of get the right type of trip. Again, this is one-time winner, but 10 times in the money. So a horse that's always around the finish line. Last time out, buyer speed figure 89. Maybe that's a little inflated, but it also came off a little bit of a freshening. So maybe this horse is starting to feel a little bit better. Newly turned 4-year-old. I just think this one makes a lot of sense for a barn that is really hot right now with the jockey who is winning at a high rate, and it should be sitting on a really ideal trip, quite frankly. Now, in terms of the value play, going to go back to a Wayne Potts horse, actually. And this one is interesting. Melt with You at 6-1. Francisco Martinez, apprentice jockey, up on the mount. And this one does come from a little off the pace, but is coming off of an effort over a sloppy track. and willing to draw a line through that race. Yes, the horse has won over a sloppy track before against Claiming Company, I should say, down at Delaware Park. That was over a muddy track that day against Claiming 25 Company. But you look at what this horse has done over a dry fast track, much more consistent. So I think getting off that track, maybe you see this horse getting back to what you would expect. I'm always a little skeptical of horses coming out of the Jamie Ness barn, but I think going to Potts makes a lot of sense in this particular case. And I think you could see this horse revert back to some of that better form that he showed. Because I think you look at, the one Parks race 3-back was not particularly a great effort from a Beyer speed figure standpoint, though finished second that day. But this horse has those big races to run back to. 6-1, I think you're getting some decent value there. And I'm just going to take a shot with this one, maybe underneath, maybe using up top a little bit. We should mention Linda has another horse in this same race, and that's the number 6 wait list at 7-2 with Jose Lezcano up. Could it be the Linda or the other Linda? We'll see. This one's coming off, again, a little bit of a layoff, but I think certainly is dangerous as well. Limited starts on the dirt, but has always run very competitively on that surface. All right, let's go to race number 7 on the card. And this one is a $45,000 optional claimer for 4-year-old up fillies and mares, going a mile again over the main track. And I'm going to play against Bells Beach for Chad Brown. This one is second back from a little bit of a layoff, pretty significant layoff from July to November. Now is back and is at this level after trying stakes competition, finishing second basically at this level last time out. Manny Franco up. Listen, there's a lot to like. I get it. The decent price tag on this horse, so $675,000 sale. So there's some things that I can point to. This horse is only raced 4 times. There's room for improvement, etc. That said, I'm going to go to a horse that impressed me so much in debut when I went back and found this race, which was Pride's Crossing at 7-2, the number 5 horse, 4 trainer Bill Walden. Dylan Davis, again, up on the mount here, up for the weekend. This one broke its maiden at Churchill Downs in the spring in a hand ride over, admittedly, maybe not the strongest field in the world, but this one is a really nice horse. Interesting, this one broke its maiden in debut on the dirt because this one is a quality road sired horse out of a mare by Galileo. So it is an interesting pedigree there to have this horse run on the dirt. It's been fascinating to see. Walden has been working this horse down at Turfway Park over the synthetic. I like that he's been bringing this horse back. Walden is tremendous off the layoff, over 30% winning with a positive ROI. And this one's fired off a couple of 5-furlong bullets while getting ready for this particular race. So I think there's a lot to like here at 7-2 for this runner. Now, in terms of the value play, I'm going to go a little further to the outside. That's the number 11, Fade to Gray, for trainer Todd Pletcher. Very similar to Bells Beach in that this is a horse that only 5 starts, could still be improving, I think, in a lot of ways, has Kendrick up on the mount. And, yeah, I think this one is a horse that can sit kind of just off the pace and track a little bit. It really showed the ability to pass horses last time, which I was really pleased to see. Ultimately ended up getting nabbed at the end by Just Music, but still, it was good to see this horse pass other horses because that's something she hadn't really done yet. So to see her do that, because she won in first time on dirt in gate to wire fashion, you look at her other starts, she doesn't pass anybody. Last time out, she now passes some horses. I think that's promising. Kendrick up on the mount. I expect this horse to be, Kendrick to be aggressive out of the gate just to save ground and to try to kind of work his way over. Doing the 1-turn mile now, I think kind of fits this horse pretty well. 6-1. It's a large field, so it's not huge value, but I think this horse makes a lot of sense in this particular spot. All right, let's go to race number 8 on the card, and it's going to be an interesting race here, and we're going to look at a $76,000 allowance for 4-year-old and up New York breds going 6 furlongs on the dirt, like a couple of prices in this race. And one of those is the number 8 Kid Billy for trainer Bill Mott, who we talked about before. But this is another young horse coming off a second back from a significant layoff. Had not run in 11 months from January to November of this past year. Now second back, and really, like I said, I'm excited to see what this horse can do in that second start. Is running against, Mott's not dropping this horse at all, running this horse against the same level of competition, New York breds. has a kind of more of an off-the-pace running style. I think you could look at that effort over the muddy sealed track and toss that. And the other race was also coming off a pretty significant layoff, then other really bad start. You look at the other few starts that this horse made, they were all pretty solid. And now this horse is second back from that layoff. I think the horse can move forward. The horse moved forward significantly second back last time off of a layoff. This horse has been training nicely coming out of that November race. And you've seen this horse get 4 workouts in now. So build up additional conditioning. And I just think this one's sitting on a potentially big effort here. So I really like Kid Billy at 6-1. Now, in terms of the value play, I'll take a little bit of a shot downfield with number 2. He Has It All for Ray Handel. And this is one who is just, broke its maiden last time out and is facing winners for the first time, but is very similar in profile to Kid Billy in that the horse is second back from a layoff. I expect that 68 buyer speed figure to increase second back. Ray is usually pretty good at getting second back, second off these types of a layoff. And I just think Ray's not necessarily known for a barn that strings wins together with horses, but I think it's promising that you already saw the second place horse, Elvis himself, come back to win next time out. I think this horse can move forward from this race. Also, is notable, beat Open Company last time out. So had been running against these state breds, then last time out up here at Aqueduct on November 30th, ran against Open Company and won that race with Romero Mirage up on the mount. That was the first time Romero took over and got the win there. This horse has good early speed, should be in the mix early. And again, more conditioning, second back. I really like what this horse can do potentially in this spot. Well, let's go to the bailout race and race number 9 on the card. And listen, this is where the single is on the card, in my opinion. And if you're playing the late pick 5, this is where I'm going to single. I've been spreading in a bunch of different races and, using some favorites, fading some other favorites, trying to get around some, using second and third choices, etc. Number 10, Vikinda for George Weaver would appear to be the single here. This is a horse that has run very well in 3 career starts, never missed the board, coming off a second place finish last time out, the Sand Devil. Now, that's notable because all Sand Devil did was come back next time out and run a 90 buyer speed figure while beating Optional Claiming Company by 12.5 lengths. So this is a very good horse, or lost to a very good horse. And now we're getting Lasix, Manny Franco up on the mount. This horse has been training nicely for Weaver. I just think in a race that doesn't have a ton necessarily that scares me, this horse just feels like heads and shoulders the best, is going to be my single on the card. That's number 10, Vikinda. Now, if you're looking for a little bit of a price, if you're looking for maybe a couple of horses to try to beat Vikinda, then I do think a horse like Late Night Boss makes some sense. 6-1, the number 8 horse for Jeremiah Engelhardt. Jeremiah is very good at getting horses ready first time out. Sire's solid with debut runners. And you get Jose Lezcano up. There's some nice works. I really like the 47-4 gate work leading up to this race on January 3rd, 2nd out of 78. Engelhardt's off to a strong start this winter, I should say, up here at Aqueduct. 2 for 3 winning, 3 for 3 in the money with limited starts. Again, this horse kicks off with Lasix. I really like the fact this horse has shown 2 strong gate works, both January 3rd and November 24th. Both of those have been strong gate works, 48-1, 47-4. Shows this horse has early speed. You got a jockey like Lezcano up on the mount. I expect this horse to run pretty well. The other horse I'll mention at 4-1 is Prince Valiant for Todd Pletcher with Dylan Davis up on the mount. This horse, again, has very, very good early speed. Should show additional conditioning. Finished 3rd behind Sand Devil and Vikinda last time out. Might be able to take that big step forward in the next start and really kind of, like I said, maybe the Lasix hits a little different and maybe has a better showing. But I think those are kind of your main players in this particular race. So listen, we got through 9 races. We did it in a pretty good amount of time. We're getting more efficient. And it's an interesting 9-race card. I think from a standpoint of the early pick 5, you want to single Tizzy in the Sky. From the late pick 5, I'm going to be singling Vikinda. I think you can try to beat some other favorites. There's a lot of those N2L races where you can really play against a horse. I know I like York Tavern, but you can try to play against that one. You can play against the heavy favorite D-Day in the other race, in the Claiming 25 race 4. So I think there are some horses you can try to play against, catch a couple of prices. Hope you guys found this one interesting. Listen, appreciate everybody watching. Make sure to tune in to my Tampa Bay Stakes preview with Acacia Clement and Paul LaDuca. That's going to be up on the YouTube channel this weekend. And make sure to start tuning in next week to all of our Kentucky Derby coverage and Kentucky Oaks coverage. I'm going to be joined by Kaylee Shapiro, and we're going to have a lot of fun content for you all spring long, in addition to race previews, full card analyses, handicapping, betting tutorials, and so much more. All right. Appreciate you pressing that like and subscribe button. My name is Matthew DeSantis, wishing you a great and profitable day at the races, and reminding you, friends, it's now post time.